charged against my heart and my head, not my heart.
Present.
Here.
Present.
Hawthorne. Present. Watts. Middleton. Atkins. Here. Chavez. Sir Smith. Here.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. We're going to have the invocation by Commissioner Dominic and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Epperson.
All stand, please. Bow our heads. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here today. I ask and pray that you will provide us wisdom and knowledge and understanding, especially as we make decisions concerning our citizens. I just pray that you will be with the citizens of Caddo Parish. Be with us as commissioners as we go forward each and every day. Dear Lord, just praise you for all you've done. I ask and pray that you'll continue to provide leadership and guidance to us and be with our military. And thank you, dear Lord, for all the wonderful things you've done in this world. In your precious holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Let us all turn and face the flag. All military and veterans render the hand to brow salute. All others hand over your heart. And let's repeat the pledge in unison. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any agenda additions for today?
Mr. President, I just wanted to make one note today
Yes, sir.
that I did accidentally omit Resolution 12. It did not make today's agenda. It will push to the 17th agenda.
That's completely acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we'll move to citizen comments.
Wait, let me get a comment.
Yes.
Commissioner Epperson.
Okay, now, what was resolution number 12?
That was the support of the port. Resolution for the port.
Renewal of the tax millage.
Okay, it was an error and omission, right?
Yes, sir. I omitted it. I accidentally omitted it. Yes, sir.
But I mean, that doesn't mean that we can't take it up. It was supposed to have been on here anyway,
You could take it up with an agenda addition. You could. Yes, sir.
Well, I think we ought to go ahead and take care of it.
Okay. Everybody would have to vote in favor for it to be put back on the agenda. If
I
you'd
move.
Second. Okay. Motion is made by Commissioner Epperson and seconded by Commissioner Jackson to add, that was Resolution 12 of 2016 in support of the port. This is to allow it to add to the agenda. We have to have 100%, all 12 vote yes. To add it, one no vote would kill this. Everybody please vote to add it to the agenda.
We are voting to add it to the agenda.
Yes,
Add it
sir.
to the
So we
agenda.
can vote on it like we did last week.
Yes, sir.
Up or down?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, and that fails, and so we will put
Push
it
to
on
the
the agenda
17th.
later.
I have a point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Now, this was an error. You know what I mean? So this should almost really be a no-brainer because it should have been that. It was a clerical error. It's not like you're adding something to the agenda. This was supposed to have been there. So I don't think what we've just done is in order.
I think that
should be
what
just
we've done is
put
in
there.
order. If you'll allow me to, I'll allow Mr. Hopkins. I think he's done all the
Mr.
research on
Epson, the
this.
deal is it did not make the agenda for publication. So because of that, it has to be added by agenda addition. But it was my mistake. It was no one else's mistake.
Okay, I just want to note for the record, you know, we had a $1.25 million appropriation that was left out of the budget on the clerical error. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to citizens' comments. Each citizen has 3 minutes to speak on any item that they would like to speak on. The first person on the agenda that I have is Mr. John Settle, who wants to speak on the port resolution in the district attorney's office. If everybody will give their name and address, please.
John Settle, 33 Tealwood, Shreveport, 71104. Initially, I really would like 3 minutes to speak on each. You have one resolution's on today, and one is, I think, will be on the 17th. So I guess I'll start, and maybe if it can be extended. I was real happy to see that Mr. Dominic has put on the agenda a resolution commending new DA James Stewart. My apology. I did not support Mr. Stewart in his election, but I do practice criminal law, and there's been a lot of positive changes that he's implemented in the last 3 months, 2 months really. And I think that's important for y'all to know because y'all funded part of that office and for the Citizens Shreveport. And these changes are very good for the system of justice, both for the victims and for people accused of crimes. And I'll just list the ones I know about that I have experienced in less than 2 months. And I have actually told Mr. Lawler and the Quizzer about this, and I think he's going to highlight that tomorrow in his column. One thing, it's now a dress code for the attorneys, the male attorneys. They wear a coat and tie 5 days a week. Frequently you would see them in jeans and everything there. And then one day I actually saw an attorney basically dressing in the hall, putting his shirt on, his tie on, and his coat and all that. I think it's just a professional thing, and it is important that that the assistant DAs now have a dress code, and the men wear coat and ties 5 days a week. I consider that positive. Another thing is he's greatly expanded the diversion program. And diversion is when somebody has does not have a criminal record and it's a minor crime, and they can go through in effect a pre-sentence probationary period. And if they complete that satisfactorily, then the charges are dropped. So kids that get caught with a little bit of dope can go through this and not have it on their record. But DA Stewart is expanding this to include first-time DWIs, some of them depending on the limits and their prior record. And you may have seen there's an article where one of his assistants has even started a diversion program for those people accused of prostitution. And this is important to allow people a second chance on minor offenses so they don't get tagged with a misdemeanor that's going to ruin the rest of their life. Also, his section chiefs are very active. They're pre-screening cases. I had a delight that probably you would love to have. I went over one day. My client was accused of a crime. I looked on the docket. I couldn't find him. I said, well, he's supposed to be here today. And the section chief came over and said, I screened that case, and it wasn't worthy of merit. We're dropping it. And I thought, my goodness. You would like some of that, Mr. Dominic.
You did a good job, John.
That's right. I did a good job. I didn't even know about it, but it got dropped. But it's actively looking at files and not making people go over there a couple times before they drop it. And this is a very positive thing that DA Stewart has done. The hours they work. I think they're all over there 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. The Friday before the last holiday, which was what? President's Day? Help me. I was in my office late, and I had a secretary call me at 4:15 on a case that was coming up, and then I had the assistant ADA call me at 4:45 on a Friday afternoon before a long weekend talking about the case. And that was very good. In fact, I've identified all these to DA Stewart by an email. Aggressively clearing out old cases.
To extend 3 minutes.
Sorry. Thank you. I'm going to get real quick. The other thing, there's a lot of old cases, as we know. You probably know this or you don't, half the people in CCC are waiting for trial. Part of that's due to our bond system. Part of it is old cases have gotten bogged down. And I've heard several reports from the more experienced criminal lawyers that their old cases are getting worked and they're moving them along. And that's a good sign for the justice system, for the victims, and for those accused. And lastly, all of his ADAs, assistant ADAs, you can tell now they feel relieved. They have job security. They're very positive. You go to a courtroom, they're at 9 o'clock. Court opens at 9:30. And so I just want to, since this is on the docket and since y'all help support that office, point out what I consider to be very, very, very positive changes for the criminal justice system that have already been implemented by our new DA. May I now address the port issue real quickly? Number one, I'm glad this has been moved to the 17th, not for the reasons for. I have problems with this resolution problems with the renewal for several reasons. Mr. England's here. I am tired of tax renewals being set on dates when that's the only thing there. I'm just tired of it. It's a sport in this thing. We have an election the 5th, this Saturday, that will be a lot of Caddo Parish. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And we have elections this fall. where we're going to have a special election, and there's a cost to that, and I think the port has to pay for that. So one, I'm tired of that. Two, Mr. England's regime is the least receptive to public records requests. I've had to deal aggressively with the prior attorney down there, Charles Tutt, who's now a judge. I'm having to do the same thing with Mr. Lone. You'll ask for requests, and it's in tons of record. And then when they finally answer it, they give you the very minimum amount. This institution is not transparent. And I can give you the public records to show you that when you make a request, they're the hardest people to get anything out of in this area. And I make public records requests to lots of public agencies. A lot of times not for me, other people want them. So the port's not transparent. I sent to each of you by email, which I hope you received with the exception of Ms. Gates, I keep plugging her name in wrong, 13 questions for the port.
Watts.
I'm sorry?
Watts.
My apology. I've already apologized to her, but thank you. I sent 13 questions, I think, to each of you, and I also sent to Mr. England. And I think it's time that taxing authorities start answering questions about where the money's going and why they need another renewal. This is 2 years away, and they talk about how much money they generated, but I don't know why that's not enough. So I've asked the 13 questions. I think there's 13, or no, there's 10. Mr. England's here. I hope that there'll be more communication by his staff openly with the public. And calling me and telling me I can drive all the way down to the castle, the $16 million castle, to look at documents in their record room, that's not transparency. That doesn't comply with the Public Records Act. And when I request something, other agencies make it available to me conveniently. They send it, they bill me, I pay it. I'm not going to drive down the port and dig through their files to find out records. And I'll also talk about the highest paid payroll for 15 people if you want to as well. The port is not transparent. They need to be if they want your resolution. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Thank you. Mr. John Lorick.
John Lorick, 10555 Ellaby Road, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71106. Not to be repetitive, but I just wanted to say a word about the travel expense again. I know that's before you today. I think this is an important issue. I think it's gone backwards instead of forwards from what I understand. And I think it's imperative that you as a commission be transparent, that you be honest with the taxpayers' dollars and accountable for that. And I'm asking that you consider rigid guidelines that will pass the smell test. The eyes of Caddo Parish are upon you. And what you do in this decision and the way that you handle or waste taxpayers' dollars on frivolous traveling will come back one day if it's election day. At a time when our parish is struggling as it is, I can find no justification in party funding unless it's something that brings back true results to Caddo Parish that is concrete enough that it benefits the citizens, the taxpayers that pay your salary, and those of us that live here in Caddo Parish. I know there's travel that needs to be done from time to time. I think that needs to be under rigid guidelines. Not Mardi Gras, not partying, not going to pick and choose where the most elaborate place is to go attend a class that you can get away with spending the taxpayers' dollars. I think it needs to be very discretionary. I think there needs to be limits. Now, I think the most foolish thing that you can do is give yourself an unlimited expense account to travel, because I assure you the day of accountability will come about and someone's going to be embarrassed by that. Just be honest, just be transparent, do the right thing, because the parish is watching you. Thank you much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jimmy Cuvion.
Good evening to all of you. Jimmy Cuvion, 3315 Chamont, Shreveport, 71118. I came today because we're talking about the travel policy, which is part of the bylaws. And my first thought was the bylaws have nothing to do with the people, because basically the bylaws are written by the commissioners, approved by the commissioners, and the commissioners operate and manage from those bylaws. Second thing is the charter. The charter basically is an agreement between the commissioners and the voters. I served on the 2008 Citizen Committee, and I noticed from that when I copied out the compensation from the charter, I noticed on the bottom of it, it says, of course, election of 11/20/2008, proposition number 1. So this proposition was on the ballot in 2008, and the voters approved of it, as it is written. Now, there are two separate sentences here. Compensation for mileage for road inspection or travel to and from the courthouse or any similar purpose will not be paid. Everything above this, of course, is talking about salary. The last one on here, D, says no commissioner shall receive any additional compensation, benefit, or privilege, direct or indirect, because of his office. Now, so this one sentence has been interpreted that travel is okay, that insurance policies are okay, that retirement is okay. All of these things were actually in effect when I served in 2008. I didn't know it. I quite frankly did not know it, but they were all in place. So I want to say that whenever you write this charter, rewrite this charter, commissioners are the ones that makes the final edit. They're the ones that make the final language. All the citizens do, and the parish administrator and the parish attorney, is basically work with those 6 citizens. That's it. When it came into here, we basically, it was presented, and y'all made your comments, and the commission here made the changes, whoever was here at that time. All I'm saying to you is basically, if you go back and put this on the vote again, I don't know how a voter is supposed to go into a booth and vote. I really don't know. Because when we read this, it was 6 of us that read this one simple section. And we, in essence, approved of it as it was written. Today we want to talk about an argument about whether it's compensation. You know, we want to get into an IRS statute. We want to get into all this other stuff.
Okay. Second. Moved by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Chavez, and passed by acclamation if I don't see any dissenting votes. Continue, sir.
Okay. So I'm going to finish by saying this. Citizens can only do one thing, and that's vote. That's all we can do. This provision that y'all are going to vote on today, we don't have any say over it. You can spend any amount of money you want to. You simply, in essence, have got to deal with the one sentence down here. That's all you got to deal with. So, you know, I think you're headed down a bad road because there's a lot of things good that happen here. There always have been over all the years. Nobody ever always agrees, but there's been a lot of good things happen to Caddo Parish as a result of this body. And they shouldn't change. But the attitude that people are going to have when they get confused about this, they don't know the difference between the bylaws and the charter. They're looking upon this as simply a code, you know. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Kuvion. Mr. Rob Broussard.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. President, Mr. Wilson. Rob Broussard, 451 Sanford, Shreveport, Louisiana. I really want to address like 3 issues here very quickly. I'll make it as quickly as possible. First, we have some outstanding citizens that
make comments about the commission often, and they're very wise people. Their reputations are sterling in our community. So I would like to recommend to this body that you nominate and ask Will Broyles and Elliot Stonecipher to serve on your Charter Review Committee. I think it would be wise to include those folks on there. Their reputations, like I said, are excellent, and I think they would be they would serve this body well as representatives. Second, travel. Everybody's got an opinion on travel, and I guess I have one too. My main thing is that it's in a court of law. The question before you is in a court of law. And we hear often that people are saying, follow the rule of law. If you want to follow the rule of law, let the court case play out before you vote on this travel. If there's a need to go traveling during the time that the court case is pending, I think then that need should come before this body and y'all vote on it as a whole. But I did go and sit in the committee, and I think I was the only citizen that volunteered his time and came up here and sat and listened to what the committee said. In fact, I know I was the only citizen. And while I was there, I heard some reasonable arguments of why travel is needed, and those included education for this body. And I support that. But under the current dialogue and the obvious eloquent speakers that you've heard today, you know, I think there's some questions. And, you know, I think we need to consider the questions. And I think so the only vote we can have today is to vote no on any travel benefits until the case is decided by the judge. Third, boy, this is going to be a tough one. I've stood up and I've said EAP, bad, wrong, stay away from it. We're spending our money improperly. And again, I took the opportunity and actually invited myself to go to the Entrepreneurial Acceleration Program and see what is going on at that organization. And when I got through visiting that organization, I was, and it's hard for me to do this to me, I had a big wow factor in my mind. What was going on out there is economic development on steroids. What I saw, the businesses that are being incubated and grown from that program do nothing but benefit this parish. One of the things I loved about that program was that when a company goes through.
Okay. Second. Moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watt, second by Commissioner Jackson to continue.
Thank you. And I'll finish as quickly as possible. The companies that come out of the acceleration program and that are adopted, if you will, by the Angel Fund, those companies have to stay in Caddo Parish. I thought that was one of the wisest things I heard in the whole presentation. Those companies have to stay in this parish, and we will get tax benefits from those companies being in this parish, as they do not have a tax-free option when they locate here. I was very impressed by that, and that's hopefully what we want when we do economic development. Second, however, I think we need to tweak some of the things that are going on at the EAP. Number one, I do think that there needs to be some distance put between them and the Shreveport Biomedical Research Foundation. I think the EAP is an economic development corporation, entity, and I think we need to just identify it as that and recognize the good that they do. The Biomed group, I've got a lot of problems with the Biomed, primarily because of their name and the fact that I don't see where biomedical research is the main focus of what they do. And it's my understanding from talking to those folks that within 6 months they are moving to change that name, because that name, I believe, confused a lot of voters when they went and pulled that lever to give them millages for what they thought was biomedical research. So the EAP and their leadership recognized that this was an issue that they need to address, and I think that we need to keep it in mind as a body and that before we cut their funding total, that we maybe put it to committee and have more commissioners go and see exactly what's going on out there. I think putting it off a couple of weeks is not going to hurt this organization. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you so much for letting me voice my opinions, and I appreciate what y'all do. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Broussard. Mr. Joe Johnson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. President, Mr. Wilson. My name is Joe Johnson. My property is located at 10166 Harts Island Road, southeast Caddo Parish, directly across the highway from the port. And the topic today was going to be the resolution, I believe, supporting the renewal of the property tax for another 25 years, which gives the port $6.8 million every year to fund part of their budget operations. Several years ago, the port purchased the property surrounding my home as well as my neighbors and attempted to rezone it heavy industrial. We opposed that, appeared before the MPC and several other government agencies, worried about that, what it would do to our property values, is also what it would do as far as exposing us to any type of industrial accident or danger. The port subsequently withdrew that zoning request, and we're very grateful for that. And so right now, it's just in a state of limbo. They own the property, but it's still zoned residential ag, and we don't have a factory beside our home. What I wanted you to consider, though, was that since we stopped it, surely there'll be other private property owners that will stop future attempts by the port to buy property next to their existing home sites. So what I would like you to consider is two things. First off, what if it were your homes or your family's homes that had been there for decades and is now looking at potentially a 24/7 heavy industrial operation literally right behind your house or beside it? And as far as the support of the tax, I'd also like you to consider something else. It would probably be better when a government agency spends money, they need to look at how the private sector does it. If any of you or me were to go out to buy property to locate a business, the first thing that we're going to look at, are we going to have difficulty with the people that live around that property as far as zoning and potential litigation? And that would have a strong impact on whether or not we spend that money. It would also have a strong impact on whether or not anyone would loan us the money to get into a situation like that. And that is what I would like all of you to consider before you adopt that resolution to support it, to find some way to find a solution to dealing with the people that live there before you attempt to zone heavy industrial. Now, my opinion is a little bit simpler. I believe in the rights of private property owners as long as we pay our taxes and obey the law. I don't believe anyone, private or government, should have the ability to locate a heavy industrial zone right on your fence line without your permission or at least your blessings, because all the time you can read the newspapers anywhere and always find some type of heavy industrial accident happening that kills people, that destroys their home sites, that damages their property value, you know, and this is a potential situation. Now, I'm not here to bash the port. They've created a lot of jobs and they've done good. I'll give them credit for that. But they are now in a position where they're having to purchase property that is getting closer and closer to residential home sites. And it's going to be more people attempting to stop that. Not just us, but there'll be more.
Motion by Commissioner Dominic to extend, seconded by Commissioner Jackson, and passed by acclamation. Continue, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So like I say, if you would please just take that under advisement and consideration before adopting that resolution. I mean, we're not trying to stop development by any means. Rolling over people and endangering them and destroying their property value is not the solution. Now, my wife and I bought that property in 1994 on a 30-year mortgage. We paid it off in 11 years. And we postponed having our only child to have the money to pay it off. And now here we are in our 50s, and we have to have this constant worry about what's going to happen to our property. I mean, you know, it's just something I like each and every one of you all to consider. What if it were your property? What if it were your families and your friends? And again, I'd like to thank everyone here today for allowing me to talk, and I appreciate the work that all of you do. And I don't want to talk about travel or anything like that, just the port deal. Have a good day to all of you.
Thank you. I would like to just suspend everything for just 5 seconds to recognize that DA Stewart has entered the room, and we're very grateful for his attendance. We'll move on to Mr. George Carroll.
I want to express my appreciation to each of you for letting me speak just a few minutes. My name's George Carroll. I live at 10266 Harts Island Road, Shreveport, Louisiana. I refer to it more as the village of Robson, which is now basically surrounded by the Caddo Port. Mr. Johnson and I are both neighbors. The acreage that he referenced is the 250 acres that surrounds us. Even though the port has tried to zone it, subsequently the zoning was withdrawn. But I've always felt like the purchase of that 250 acres was reckless and capricious. They bought land, they knew there were residents there. Their own consultants have told them that the acreage, they will never be able to get it zoned for what they really needed. So the question begs, how much more property do they intend to buy with the same problems? And if you look at what their plans are, it's got the same problems. For that reason, I'm asking each of you to vote no on the resolution to endorse the port's millage increase. Thank you all, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Mr. Craig Lee.
Good evening, good afternoon to you guys. I think everybody got a brochure.
Mr. Lee, your
Craig
address,
Lee,
please.
1035 Eustis Street, Shreveport, Louisiana. And I think I gave everybody a brochure. Good. We just completed our 8th annual C.C. Antoine Black History celebration this past weekend, and it was a phenomenal success. We also had at the same time, I know, Parish Commissioner Lynn Cawthorn's State of Black Shreveport event going on. But what I wanted to do is to give you an overview of what is going on as a byproduct of the investments that you guys have made on the grant side for our nonprofit. If you go down to C.C. Antoine Park now, you'll see now the Phase 1 renovations are almost complete at the park, which now has a gateway into the park on the corner of Milam and Sycamore. And it's a phenomenal situation that's going on. State Senator Greg Tarver has procured an additional $1 million that's going into economic development in that area by way of home ownership, construction, and also some improvements, some additional improvements at the park. We're also shooting to have, as we talked about this a few years ago, renovations on the home, and the home moved to Abbey Street, which would now tie in the cultural tourism part of that. In May, we're going to have the C.C. Antoine Memorial Day celebration. I just talked to Parish Commissioner Epperson. We'll do a rededication of the C.C. Antoine street sign over at the old General Motors Boulevard. So that'll go on for Memorial Day going into that weekend. C.C. Antoine's oldest living relative, Antoinette Epps Smith, she'll turn 100 years old on May 1st. So we'll be celebrating her birthday in concert with the 180th birthday celebration September the 10th. So we'll be inviting you guys out to that as well. And for the first time ever, the two individuals who helped to start the 1st Black Army Regiment, C.C. Antoine and his brothers, entire family, we're bringing both of those branches to C.C. Antoine Park for the first ever Antoine reunion. All of this ties into the cultural tourism push that we are doing in order to increase tax base. I know some of you guys are opposed to the I-49, but we would like to urge you to be on board with that because I-49 going through Allendale will help to create and stimulate economic development in concert with what we're doing with the C.C. Antoine Park. But with that, I just want to make sure that you all know that you're invited out in September and in May as it relates to what we're doing with our resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. And I do not have any further cards.
Next we move to visitors. Retired Colonel Joey Strickland, Secretary, Department of Veteran Affairs.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to introduce Colonel Strickland.
Go right ahead, Commissioner Everson. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joey Strickland was appointed Secretary of Veterans Affairs by Governor John Bell Edwards on January 13, 2016. In this position, he is responsible for overseeing 5 veterans nursing homes, 4 state veterans cemeteries, the Department's Administrative, Contact Assistance and Claims Division, the Military Family Assistance Fund, Veterans Honor Medal Program, and advocacy outreach to our veteran service organizations, homeless and women veterans. A large part of his responsibility is advocating on behalf of Louisiana veterans to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs in Washington, D.C. Secretary Strickland is no stranger to the Veterans Administration, having served more than 15 years as either director or deputy director, deputy secretary in 2 states. At the national level, Secretary Strickland served as chairman of the VA Advisory Committee for Minority Veterans and as president of the National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs from 2003 to 2004. As NASD VA president, he testified before the U.S. Congress on various veterans issues. Secretary Strickland served 28.9 years in the United States Army, including 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. In 1994, he retired as lieutenant colonel and was later appointed colonel in the Louisiana State Guard by Governor Mike Foster, with duty on the Governor's Military Advisory Board. His awards include the Legion of Merit, Meritorious Service Medal with 4 bronze oak leaf clusters, Army Commendation Medal, 2 awards, Air Medal, 3 awards, Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal, Vietnam Service Medal with 7 battle stars, Airborne Medal, and Overseas Ribbon, among others. Secretary Strickland is married to Leela Easton Strickland, an Army brat, and they are the proud parents of 3 sons, all Army soldiers, and twin daughters who are educators. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you my good friend, long-term, go way back, Colonel Joey Strickland, Secretary of Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. President, members of the Commission, my good friend Ken Epperson, longtime good friend, approaching 20 years. It's really my honor to come before the Commission today to talk a little bit about the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs. Like Ken said, I'm newly appointed in the Edwards administration, but I'm not new to the Department of Veterans Affairs. I was the director for 8 years under Governor Foster, 4 years under Governor Blanco, and then I had a chance to go out to Arizona, where I have children and grandchildren, to be the Director of Veterans Affairs out there for then Governor Napolitano and later Governor Brewer. I also I'm part Native American, I'm part Choctaw. There are Choctaws in Louisiana, by the way.
Right.
In case you don't see them, we're here. But I had a chance to work with all 21 tribes, especially the Navajo and the great Navajo code talkers out there. But I was born and raised here. My wife is from Louisiana. We kept our home here, and we wanted to come back. And really, wasn't planning on coming back to work. I thought about retiring, but years ago, I had served in the Army with Frank Edwards, Governor Edwards' brother. Frank called and asked me if I would help Governor Edwards in his campaign. I did, and then about a month later, he asked me to take over the Department of Veterans Affairs because of some problems that the department had in the previous administration. It's no secret that our department has had some problems. You heard the gentleman talking a few minutes ago about travel. Part of the problem that occurred in the previous administration had to do with travel violations. They had to do with contract violations. Those issues are on the legal side, and they're behind us. My job is the operational side, is to make sure that our 5 veterans homes are in good shape and that they're doing their job of taking care of our veterans. These veterans' homes are not just for elderly veterans, they are also for combat wounded veterans. And I had the honor of building the veterans' home here in Bossier City about 10 years ago. Ken was a big part of that. And helping me build that home here in Bossier City. I know we're in Shreveport, but over in Bossier City was the undersecretary sitting here, raise your hand, Homer Rogers. And that is one of the most beautiful homes in the country. It has a 92% occupancy rate, and it's doing very well. Homer and I also built the cemetery, veteran cemetery, over in Keithville. And now there's almost 1,800 veterans and their loved ones that have been interred there. And we were just out there this afternoon. It's probably the most beautiful veteran cemetery, I would say, not only in Louisiana, but in the country. And you should be very proud of that facility. And although we went through all of the political hassle of the chimp haven and veterans and all of this other stuff and what could happen and what ifs, we got through all of that. The chimp haven is there and doing well, and our veteran cemetery is doing well, and we're very proud of both facilities. I am from North Louisiana, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to come up here and talk to y'all. We have an outstanding benefits office here in Shreveport that's headed up by Bruce Parker. Gentlemen, raise your hand, Bruce. By this coming Friday, it will be fully manned, taking care of the 30,000 veterans here in our area. So we're very honored to be able to do that. We'll be visiting Overton Brooks tomorrow, working with our federal folks to make sure that our veterans in this area are being taken care of medically and that they encounter no problems getting into that VA Medical Center. I have already met with the VISN director, who is the lady over all 3 VA medical centers here in the state of Louisiana. Budget-wise, for FY 2016, the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs is going to be in good shape. We have the money that we need to operate. We are concerned about 2017. We're not concerned about our homes, though, because our homes are self-sufficient. We don't get any state funds to run our homes, but we do get state funds to run our benefits offices, our cemeteries, and our claims office in New Orleans. We don't get a lot. We get about $5 million, but the legislature is looking at cutting us by 63%. If they cut us by 63%, we probably would not be able to operate. Don't believe that's going to happen. There's enough veterans in the legislature, the governor being a veteran himself. I really believe that we will be funded with state general funds, and we'll continue to operate and take care of Louisiana's 300,000 veterans and their families. We have in this state 4 of our cemeteries all over the state, and these are beautiful, serene places. How many people in here on the commission have ever been to Keithville to see that cemetery? Well, you understand what I'm talking about. The other 3 cemeteries are just like that, and they're beautiful places to honor our veterans and their families. We have other programs that are outstanding. We have a beautiful honors medal program. At the Bossier home today, we honored 14 veterans, many of them from World War II, with the medal. It was very emotional for me. I don't consider myself a political person. I appreciate the political system, and I've always worked in it. But I have worked for Republican governors. I have worked for Democrat governors. I'm a soldier. I served our country for almost 30 years in peace and war. My 3 sons are combat soldiers, having served in Iraq and Afghanistan. All I want to do is take care of our veterans. I've been doing this for 21 years, and I'm honored to do it. So thank you, Ken, for giving me this opportunity to come here and talk to you about my great department, my great employees like these gentlemen here, and for giving me a chance to talk to you about how proud I am of being the Secretary of Veterans Affairs. And I pledge to you that I will do everything that I can in the next 4 years to take care of all of our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Strickland. I don't see anybody up on the board. However, I was going to say something, but I guess, there it goes. Commissioner Dominic.
Commissioner Kim.
Let me close.
Colonel, I just appreciate you coming here today. Thank you for your support of our country. Thank you for all of our veterans.
Thank you, sir.
I just have always said that one thing Ken does, and he does some good stuff, is with the veterans. He's an outstanding spokesman and leadership for the parish, and thank you for coming up here today. We know that there's been some issues, and we look forward to working with you, and obviously it pleases our hearts to understand that you have a big, strong understanding heart for our cemetery and the veterans and the home in Bossier City. And I just personally wish you the best of luck in your new jobs and your endeavors, and for anything we can do, just let us know. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominic. I appreciate those remarks, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Dominic. Commissioner Chavez.
Colonel, I want to thank you as well. I'm a soldier, and I served in Iraq, and personally have done over 100 military funerals. I served on the Northwest Louisiana Honor Guard, and I can't tell you what it's like to get your heart broken when you go to any other veterinary or a funeral place where a veteran is laying to rest and nobody shows up to show their respect for that veteran, and it's you and one other soldier and basically the funeral home putting the casket in the ground. It's heartbreaking. But at the Veteran Cemetery, not only is it the most beautiful cemetery that I've seen, the fact that the Patriot Guard, who's volunteer soldiers that show up every time there's a funeral, they don't even know these soldiers. They just show up so that somebody can help fold a flag, can raise a hand salute, say a prayer. It touches my heart, and it means so much that you guys are doing that, and you guys are volunteering and putting your life just wholeheartedly towards that program. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, Commissioner. I read your story, by the way, and I read all your stories. And but I was looking to see if there were veterans, on the commission, and I saw where you were a veteran and where you had served in Iraq. And I want to honor your service, and I thank you. I know what soldiers in Iraq went through because 3 of my sons served, and one of my sons also served in Afghanistan. So thank you for your service, and thank you for your remarks.
Thank you, Colonel.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Stormy Gage-Watts.
Thank you. Thank you, Colonel Strickland, for your service. I just wanted to shed some light on recognizing women veterans. When I think about veterans, the first thing I think about are men. But there's a community of women out there who are seeming somewhat invisible for the service that they have done. And I know they've started a campaign across the world called I Am One, I'm a Veteran Too. And I thought that it would be a nice acclamation from you to do something to recognize those women veterans out there who strung up their combat boots and went out to war to fight on our behalf.
Commissioner, I'm glad you really brought that up because I was remiss in not mentioning our women veterans. We have 30,000 women veterans in our great state, and this coming May the 10th, in the rotunda of the state capitol, our very first Veterans Honor commemoration will be for women veterans.
All right.
And the governor will come down and address all of our women veterans. So we haven't forgotten you.
Thank you.
And for those that maybe don't realize this, we've had over 200 women killed in combat in our country. That's the first in the history of our nation. And so our women have sacrificed and continue to sacrifice, and so we honor them as well. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Stormy Gage-Watts. I know that Commissioner Epperson wants to do the final on this, and so let me go ahead and tell you thank you very much for the work that you do with our local VOA. Chuck Meehan was in here earlier, and we're friends with Brian Bird, both at the VOA, and recognize that I believe that you oversee 3 homes here that federal money is what runs these, and then also we visited on telemed, and so that's a new event that's happening where the medical facilities can actually go to the veterans no matter where they are in the rural areas, and they wanted me to extend to you a big thank you for all of the support that you give to the local VOA in support of the veterans, and so thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, we have come to the realization that it takes volunteer organizations to help our homeless veterans, especially when it comes to transient housing and permanent housing. So we're in the process of entering into an agreement as a State Department with VOA to work together on transient housing for homeless veterans, and also to work with VOA to improve our Veterans Court.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everything that you do for them. Commissioner Epperson.
Just a reminder to all, the Police Year Association of Louisiana is holding its 92nd annual convention here at Shreveport Convention Center, 400 Caddo. Colonel Strickland will be the guest speaker at my committee tomorrow at 10 a.m., the Veterans Military Services Committee. We have a number of resolutions that we'll be offering there, as well as some valuable information. We not only invite all of the veterans here and elected officials, but also it's open to the general public. We'll have adequate space for the general public. They're welcome to come to that committee room, and it'll be in room 207 at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And we also have the director of Overton Brooks VA Medical Center will be there. We have a representative from an organization that will provide telephones at no cost to veterans with hearing problems that will read out digitally and in large print. So we have a wealth of information for our veterans tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. And I believe that's everybody on the board. Thank you so much.
I would just like to tell Commissioner Epperson, as a fellow Vietnam veteran, welcome home, brother. Thank you.
Next, we move to special resolution. Special resolution of appreciation to Dell Nix Sr.
We'd like to move that to our next meeting, if that's okay.
Second. Okay. Moved by Commissioner Dominic, seconded by Commissioner Johnson to move that to the next meeting.
Then we move to special resolution of recognition to District Attorney James Stewart.
Would all stand?
Please stand.
We're not going to baptize you yet, okay? All right. Go ahead and have the reading of the resolution.
By the authority of the Caddo Parish Commission, resolution of recognition to District Attorney James E. Stewart. Whereas the Caddo Parish Commission notes with interest and satisfaction the significant events that occur in the lives of citizens who have made significant and lasting contributions to Caddo Parish and the larger community. And whereas such an individual as James Stewart, who in November of 2015 was elected as Caddo Parish's first African-American District Attorney. James was born in Shreveport and raised on family values, faith, and a strong work ethic. And whereas James is a Hall of Fame honor graduate of C.E. Byrd High School, who continued on to receive his bachelor's in political science from the University of New Orleans and his Juris Doctorate degree from Loyola School of Law. And whereas James has demonstrated his long-term commitment to civic, social, and community engagement throughout his career with the City of Shreveport and the Parish of Caddo. He has held the positions of Assistant City Attorney, Assistant District Attorney, First District Attorney, First Judicial District Court Judge, and Louisiana Second Circuit Court of Appeal Judge. And whereas James has promoted professional development through his membership and leadership in numerous professional organizations and committees, such as Louisiana State Bar Association, the Shreveport Bar Association, the National Bar Association, the American Bar Association, the Louisiana Conference of Court of Appeal Judges, and the Louisiana Judicial Council of the National Bar Association, to name only a few. Whereas James is a man of faith, family, and community involvement, he is a member of the Zion Baptist Church, where he serves as deacon and lay minister. James has supported the community by founding youth mentoring programs, including the West Shreveport Little League, West Shreveport Sports Association, and the Keepers of the Vineyard. And whereas James is married to Miss Helen Gafford Stewart and is the proud father of 5 children, 2 stepchildren, and 1 grandchild. Now therefore be it resolved that the Caddo Parish Commission, meeting in legal and regular session convened this 3rd day of May 2016, does wish that District Attorney James Stewart continues to provide many years of selfless service to this parish. Signed, all Caddo Parish Commissioners.
So moved.
Second. Passes by acclamation.
Y'all know, grab a seat. Judge, I just have to tell you something. You missed something remarkably. Before we start at the first of the meeting, we have a citizen's comment. Our good friend John Settle sitting here, and he spoke. And he spoke on your behalf and said that you've been doing a great job, that he's seen a lot of changes in the district attorney's office, saying things that I would say, the professionalism that the assistant DAs are showing everyone, that there's been some changes in the diversion program to help out citizens, just the dress code and things like that. I noticed that as I know most of y'all know, or many of you know, that with the budget cuts, us private lawyers have been being appointed to represent the indigent, and we don't get paid. And you guys have realized that, making sure that the private lawyers get in and out as quickly as possible, because you know that we're having to make a living, especially if you live up North Caddo Parish. But that's moving along very good, and everything seems to be doing great in your office. And I wanted, you and I talked a few months ago, and you said you wanted to come, that you knew all the commissioners, or most of them, but you wanted to come over here and meet us, and I wanted to do that. And I thought the best thing to do was asking for a resolution, just showing you our thanks and our appreciation for the years of your service as a judge and now the district attorney, and we wish you the best of luck. Maybe John thought you were going to put him in jail. Maybe that's why he was saying. But anyway, I know you have some assistant DAs here, and I know you like to dress up. Not yet. So I'm going to turn it over, and I just personally say thank you and wish you the best of luck.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I won't be short. This was a unexpected pleasure. I didn't expect this. I received a text saying I needed to be here. I apologize for being late. We were in the middle of something, but I promise you, if I ever need some money, I'll be on time. Ask for. I really want to thank you for.
You better beat Craig Lee here is all I got to tell you.
I really want to thank you for how generous the commission has been in the transition. Mr. Wilson's staff has gone out of their way to take care of any issue. In fact, they've spent all day today in my office working on a project. It's just been wonderful that when we needed something, we got it. We will continue to work with the commission. We're all in this together. I know most of you. I thank you for being here. I brought some of my senior staff members with me today. They're working hard. We're still in the transition period. We're still working through things. You'll see more things happening, but we just appreciate that I appreciate that you recognize the hard work that they are doing, and we appreciate the support that you give us. I know just about all of you, most of you, and hopefully we can continue in this procedure. Just don't continue to sick Erica on me, telling me what I can and cannot spend. But it's been a good relationship and continue. And thank you very much, and really appreciate it. And I want a certified copy of John Sell's remarks.
DA Stewart. We got one more. The roast didn't open. Commissioner Jackson.
I have my.
Go ahead. Invite him up.
I have my first assistant, Laura Fulco.
You're welcome to invite him up.
Come on up. Bill, come on, man. Don't be scared.
Y'all, good team.
This is Laura Fulco. She's my first assistant. She's the one that you'll see in the courthouse itself, handling the day-to-day operations. This is Bill Edwards. Bill's been in the DA's office for many a year. He handles screening, which means when you read about a homicide, it goes through Bill's office. We screen all those cases. This is Pena Moses Field. Pena came to my office. She's formerly the city attorney of New Orleans from under Ray Dagan. She has a LLM in taxation from Villanova. She handles my new special victims unit, which handles domestic violence, sexual crimes, high-end white-collar crimes. We're developing that. Unfortunately, that's a need position. The commission has just helped finish us work on a grant to get some more people in that division, and Pena will be working with that. So I'm glad to have all three of them on board.
Fantastic. We got And then Commissioner Jackson.
DA Stewart, I admire you. I saw you out on the campaign trail. Had always read about you. And when you're a Court of Appeals judge, I came of age where you won the Court of Appeals. So it wasn't a lot to read, but what I have read. And for folks who may not know you, one thing that stands out and what I admire is that you are not afraid to let your face be shown. I was over at several events with you throughout the campaign and even after the campaign is over. Sometimes we only pray when we're in need, but even after you got the victory, you've let your faith be on display. And I, as a young elected official, I appreciate that and I admire that in you. The other thing that I would just tip my hat to you for is the Truancy Program that you are ramping up or getting aggressive about. Truancy is an issue here. We've had some issues with it, and I would like to pledge whatever support that I can. At least I'm only one vote when you come to ask for that money, but whatever we can do, because our youth are the backbone, and if we don't have parents who are willing to be or who are held accountable for truancy, then we have a problem, not just as the DA, the police, the commission, the city. It's a community problem, because if such and so is not in school, then more than likely they're in somebody's backyard trying to go in their back window, and that's an issue. And so I applaud you for already coming in. It hadn't even been 100 days yet, but I'm looking forward to the next 4 years and more under your leadership in the DA's office, and I just tip my hat to you, and whatever support that we can offer, at least from my perspective, I'm looking forward to being on board with it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Bowman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'll be real brief. I've known you all my life. Just want to tell you what a true, godly, humble servant leader that you are. And it's an honor to have you as a role model, not just a role model and a prototype for judges, attorneys, but just anybody, male, female, and it reaches across all different spans, you know, socioeconomic backgrounds, you know, not just for African Americans, but for all. And that's what this area needs, and that's what is motivation for myself and other people to see that someone like that does exist and that it can happen. And so you really like the dream person who brings things to reality, and for people can try and move to be like you. And so I just appreciate you just being a part of my life and just the Caddo Parish as a whole. So God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watt.
Thank you. DA Stewart. Hello, sir.
Minister.
Thank you for your courage to stand up, to lead, to change the image of this parish. You know that I am so proud of you, not just for being an African American, but for an American who has the courage to take things in the right direction and to realize that there needs to be a voice for domestic battery issues and for women to be heard and exercised in all areas of this parish. If I could ever be any assistance to you and anything else, know that I'm always here, and I thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Middleton.
Good afternoon, sir. Congratulations on today's recognition, and Laura and everybody, Bill. I've known you a long time, and I've had cases in front of you as a deputy sheriff, as you know. I don't know if you remember one particular comical one, that newspaper flying out of the back of a pickup truck. You didn't realize, you know who I'm talking about, but you ruled in my favor on that one. I appreciate it. When the race first started out, I may have jumped on another team because, hey, that's who I thought was going to be the person. And then they started having rumors about you considering running. I said, whoa, that's going to kind of change things. That's going to be a tough one to beat right there. And that proved to be. You're a man of faith. I was at your inauguration down at the Civic Center. And it was great. It was good seeing your brother up there and your dad. That's really cool. And anything I can do for you, call on me anytime. And again, Godspeed, best of luck. And you got a great team there.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Good afternoon. I will be terse. but I've known you by reputation over the years, got a chance to visit with you a little bit during the campaign. I know that you're going to do a great job and you're going to make us proud, and it's good that you're going to be the DA in this parish, and that you are a DA who happens to be African American, but I know who's going to serve the greater public. And that's one final note. I will file the public records request to get you John Settle's comment.
It's on video.
It is. Good luck, DA.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Johnson.
Just before I leave, I want to acknowledge my commissioner, Ken Epson, my good friend. If something goes wrong, I call my commissioner, and he gets right on it. So I want to thank him, and Lyndon Johnson, my good friend, and thank y'all for having us. But we're going to go back to work. We still have some other things to do.
Hey,
You got
you can't go yet. Some more people on the board.
You and I
Hey, a few more.
But DA, we've known each other over 24 years. You was a role model then, and still a role model now. I appreciate that you still live by the cardinal principles in which you both on, and that other young men would be inspired to do the same thing that you have done, to not only form athletic associations, go into the law, then come in being a judge, and now taking where you was comfortable at being a judge to being now the parish district attorney. Dr. Wilson also told me about the part that the other division that you was adding on with the human trafficking piece of it, and that's something that I have great passion about. Did a summit about it last year and looking to do another summit this year, so I'll be willing to work with whoever you have in the DA's office to make this year's summit even better.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Epperson.
DA Stewart, even though we are neighbors, but your dad is the one that keeps me straight, so good. He's a veteran.
We need his telephone number then.
Somebody keeps you straight.
We appreciate his support, and tell him I already got a spot reserved in this year's Veterans Program for another full-page ad as a veteran. And if he can possibly make it, he's more than welcome to come to the committee meeting tomorrow. But I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Chavez.
DA Stewart, I'm probably the only one around the horseshoe that doesn't personally know you and didn't really get the opportunity to meet you while on the campaign trail. And it's easy when you have a piece of paper saying, this is who I am and this is what I stand for and what I believe in. But when I went to the Miss Bessie thing where she had at the church, and I had the opportunity of having them introduce you and then having you come up and speak, it doesn't really matter on the accomplishments of what you've done. It matters on the heart of somebody. And when you gave the speech and you gave it all to God and you prayed and you led the sermon, that's when I knew the true man that you were, and I was very impressed. And I wanted to tell you that privately, but I figured, you know what, why not tell him publicly?
Come on.
I was extremely impressed with the way you talked to the congregation and just your heart poured out to everybody. I said, now that's a man, and there's a reason why he got elected. So I want to congratulate you for getting the district attorney's position.
Oh, wow.
And DA Stewart, I saw why you got elected when you got sworn in, and that was quite impressive. And I want to thank you personally for the work that you've done in opening up your doors with Interfaith and with Sam Brock and the Rugby Juvenile Initiative, and also with the Truancy Program. And Caddo Parish Commission, the DA's office, and the school board have always had a partnership with the Truancy Program, and I definitely look forward to working with you on that in this coming year. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
And that is everybody. Thank you. I know y'all have been trying to speak out. Thank you.
Court dismissed.
Next, we move to adopt the regular session minutes from February 18th.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts and seconded by Commissioner Middleton. Could you please vote? I don't see anyone on the board. And that passes.
Jefferson,
Okay.
yours up. Okay. Next, we move to communiques and committee reports.
Commissioner Epperson.
Just want to invite everyone out to the 92nd Annual Police Jury Association Convention, March the 3rd through the 5th at the Shreveport Convention Center. All of our colleagues from all 63 other parishes in the state will be here. Hopefully we'll be there to greet them and make them welcome and show them some good hospitality. There's a wealth of committees. If you're registered and you're going to attend, you can choose a committee and go into that committee. They'll start tomorrow. Also, let us not forget our business session, as well as ethics training and a wealth of educational opportunities, not only for elected officials, but also for the administrative areas of our parish government also. So we would ask that you would come out and participate there. Also on Friday, March the 4th, that's tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., Congressman Charles Bustani. He's a good friend of the veterans. Each time I go to D.C., he always makes me welcome in his office. And he's shifted his schedule to come out and be with us tomorrow evening at 5:30 in the lounge area of the Hilton Convention Hotel. In the event that the space isn't adequate, everyone is welcome to come and attend and speak with him in reference to whatever issues you may have. And if the crowd is too large, I'll see if we can go back up to room 207 if it hadn't been broken down, to spend some time with him there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Jackson.
Just a reminder for the public that is watching this Saturday, unless you've been under a rock somewhere, but it is projected to be a low turnout, but this Saturday is an election and encouraging citizens and residents to go out and exercise their right to vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for or what to vote for, but please exercise that right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Middleton.
Well, the Commissioner Lynn and I met this morning with the Citizens Committee on Animal Services, and it went real good. I think we're progressing there. And the only big thing that Mr. Wilson has to pass along each time, spay and neutering. And that's what we really need to get out there and meet. Spay and neutering is causing us to have some positive results in the animal services area. So I appreciate Mr. Wilson's hard work out there and his staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner Cawthorn.
Thank you. I want to invite everybody out this weekend to the culminating activity of the 5th Annual State of Black Shreveport. It's going to be tomorrow at Galilee Baptist Church. It's our youth rally and empowerment program. It's going to be an honorarium to Dr. Edward Jones, and it's going to be at 7 p.m. tomorrow. We got a renowned speaker in the person of Jamar Harrison Bryan, who will be our guest speaker. We got all of our youth out, so it's going to be a very dynamic program. And I invite everyone out on tomorrow, 7 p.m., Galilee Baptist Church, 1500 P Avenue. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Cawthorn. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Glass. I don't see him, Mr. D. Thank you. The church that the citizens, the constituents of District 7 have been complaining about has now been torn down.
Yes.
So thank you for helping to initiate the city to get that taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you,
That's
Commissioner
good.
Watts. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. I would ask that the clerk that we'll start keeping the side door closed and only let people through there that's escorted by someone from the commission staff. I paid a visit to the federal courthouse, and it's like night and day coming into there and coming into here. And I just think we just need to tighten up some of our security of some of the things that we will allow to happen. Today was Black Caucus had the Empowerment Summit today that was from 12 o'clock until 4 o'clock over at the Convention Center. Tomorrow we'll have the annual business meeting at 11 o'clock until about 1. Invited to come if you wanted to. And remember that if anybody who has anybody they want to recommend for the charter review, that we need those names ASAP. We'll be putting it on the next work session in March. So the one that's coming up. So we'll then have the vote on the 6 that we want. Right now, we're up to about 11, and if we decide on the 2 that was recommended today, that would throw us up to 13. So we'll have to narrow it down to 6 to sit on that charter review. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, President Lynn. Just want to remind you all again, for the NGO committee members, our next meeting is on Monday, March 14th, which is the day of our work session, at 2 p.m., and we'll meet back here in the conference room. That's all right with Todd.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you.
Commissioner Middleton.
I don't know why I'm up there. I didn't hit it.
Okay, Commissioner Dominic.
Hey, Dr. Wilson, can you contact the director of the Red River Waterway Commission maybe to give us an update? I think it's Mr. DeBarto, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
It's been several years since he's spoken, and, due to the fact we've had some issues with the Red River, maybe he can give us an update, and we pass some resolutions, and he can give us an update where everything's going. If he could just come as a speaker, please.
Will do.
Thank you.
That's everybody, Mr. Hopkins.
Just want to point out notification of MPC of resignation of Mr. Michael T. Newman, effective March 15th. Next, we move to President's report.
Go ahead, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I would like to make sure that, I guess, for the new commissioners and everybody else, that we open the process to replace Michael T. Newman as the NPC. I know during the work session that there was a couple of resumes floating around, but I'd like to have an open period in which we will accept them with a deadline, and then we can look at those resumes to determine who we want to vote for.
Thank you for my president's report.
Okay. Well, being past president,
He's president emeritus, so.
And so yes, in recognition that we do have an opening spot on the MPC, I want to encourage every commissioner and every single person listening, if you would please get in your names. If you're listening, if you have a commissioner that you obviously are going to have to live in one of our districts to be on that committee, and so send your name into them, reach out to them, send your resume and your letter of request to your commissioner, and then they will be able to submit it to Mr. Hopkins. I believe there are 2 names already on the list that will come forward next Tuesday, so I would guess that the deadline for, not next Tuesday, our next Monday meeting, which would be
the 14th.
14th.
Yeah.
14.
March the 14th. And so you'd need to get it in before that Friday. Anyway, thank you. That's the end of my president's report.
Right. Next, we move to public hearing on zoning ordinances. Ordinance number 5564, 2016, in regards to zoning case P116, amending the zoning of property located on the north side of Market Street, 3,040 feet east of Roy Road Extension, Caddo Parish, from RA Residential Agriculture to B3 Community Business District.
Is there anybody here to speak in favor of Ordinance 5564 of 2016? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to Ordinance 5564 of 2016? I see no comment.
That'll close public hearing on zoning ordinances. Next, we have no public hearing on ordinances. We move to zoning ordinances for final passage. Ordinance number 5564 of 2016.
Move to support.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Johnson and seconded by Commissioner Dominic in support. I do not. Commissioner Johnson, did you want to speak? No. Okay. No one wants to speak. Ready to vote?
I can speak.
That passes.
Next, we have no ordinances for final passage. We move to ordinances for introduction by title. Ordinance number 5565 of 2016, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund for the year 2016 to reduce the appropriation for the Biomedical Research Foundation's Entrepreneurial Acceleration Program by $200,000. Next, we move to work session minutes, ratify the minutes of February 29th.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Dominic, seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
It was actually by Middleton and seconded by Johnson.
Pardon me,
That's okay. I think it was moved by Commissioner Middleton and seconded by Commissioner Johnson.
Okay. You can make that correction, Mr. Hopkins,
Yes, sir.
and I don't see anybody who wishes to speak. Will you please vote?
Mr. Epperson?
That passes.
Next, we move to resolutions. Resolution number 7 of 2016, amending the rules and bylaws of the Caddo Parish Commission relative to Article 12, Rule 1, travel policy.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Johnson, would you like to speak on your motion?
I just got a question because I'm really confused about, we got 3 different amendments here, policies that's here. So which one is the base and which one is one that has to be added, or which is what?
The one, sir, the one you have first is the recommended amended version from committee.
Okay.
The second version is another amendment that is being proposed, I think, today. The third one on the line is the original. I wanted you to be able to look at all of them, because the original was remanded back to committee, and then out of committee came the amended version.
All right. Okay.
Can I, point of order, I think the third one, it's actually, if I'm reading this correctly, the third one, if you click on it, the third one is the one that's going to be amended, I think, by Mr. Atkins in
Okay,
just a
that's
second
correct.
one. The second one is the one that was
The original.
originally done. So
Correct.
hope I didn't confuse everybody.
I think if you'll see in the blue, it says,
Okay, so
Commissioner Johnson.
First one
still
is
has
the
floor.
the first one, and I'm just trying to help you. The first one is the
I
one.
know which ones they are, but I'm just saying, when we take a vote right now, which one are we voting on?
you're,
The,
my understanding is
the one
you're,
that-
you're
the
you're
one
voting
that
on
was
the recommendation from committee.
Okay, so that's the original.
First one.
That's the recommendation from committee,
All right.
is what you're made a motion and second on.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm gonna talk about that with you. Today, we heard comments from a couple of citizens, and we heard some Monday from citizens, and they talked about transparency. I think we probably have the most transparent form of government in the state, because we've been under attack from day one, at least for the last 3-4 years. And with that, they have been given all type of information that evidently other parishes don't have this problem with. When we revised the travel policy, I made it my business to look at multiple travel policies, not only in the state, but also outside of the state. And one thing that I saw consistent was there was no dollar value added in anybody's travel policy. And I think that when we did put that in, that was a big mistake. But it was a major compromise on what was going on at the time to try to put a cap on travel. Well, we really don't have that problem, because in 2015, the travel for the commissioners was $43,208.80. So divide that by 12, you're looking about $3,600 per commissioner, if I'm not mistaken. So there's really not really an issue, but to address the concerns that a lot of the bloggers put out there about how we was getting additional income, and because they saw the $15,000 and they said, okay, this is additional income that y'all are getting. We're not getting additional income. If you don't travel, you don't even see the $15,000. And if you do travel, it's reimbursement for when you do go out and you travel. But the reimbursement goes to the entity in which you spent the money with. So it goes to the hotel, goes to the registration, goes to the airplane tickets. It doesn't go in our pockets. There was comments about when I made a statement to the news media that, they was talking about Washington Mardi Gras. Well, the parishes that get money from the federal government, they go to Washington Mardi Gras. They get federal dollars and you wonder why Caddo is the way that it is, why you don't get all of the things that they get down in South Louisiana. Well, South Louisiana has more connections with our U.S. congressmen. And if we would get more involvement in our commission, our city government, we would probably get more money as well. And if you look at conventions and everything, if something we're doing is illegal, then would nobody be at the convention? They wouldn't even have a cost to even have a convention. Everything would be done either by a webinar, or you got to call people in to say, hey, we need this type of training. And so that's another thing that's kind of puzzling me on this. And we talk about accountability. Well, you know, I've talked about how we spend, or how we have appropriated some money to organizations, and I felt that that was wrong based upon how they're using it, of taking taxpayer dollars and paying administrators and their benefits. And we sat here first part of the year and said, well, commissioners shouldn't have no benefits, none whatsoever. But you want to give certain people in this city, in this parish, money so that you can pay their salaries, their benefits, and personal services. Just don't add up right. It's real fishy. Then you talk about, I said something about if we didn't go to Washington Mardi Gras and we don't go out and do any lobbying, then we have to hire, or could hire, a lobbyist. Well, I was told that I was threatening the taxpayers.
You were what?
Threatening the taxpayers. That's not a threat. I mean, sometimes we'll have to have some kind of face-to-face conversation with congressmen and or our state legislators. And if we don't do it, somebody has to do it in our behalf. That brings up the lobbyists. So it wasn't a threat. It's how we have to do business as commissioners, elected officials. One gentleman said that when he went, he had to pay. Well, you're a private citizen. You should pay. Who else was going to pay on your behalf? Well, we're here representing the people that we got elected by, the constituents of Caddo Parish. And so they have needs, and in order to address their needs, we sometimes have to travel. We sometimes have to get that education in order to be able to help them. Because just sitting in Shreveport and sitting in Caddo Parish, you could get to run around and not even know how to get anything done. So you have to come out with ways so that you can get things done. Because at the end of the day, that is what the taxpayers want. They want to be able to call you, and you come back and give them an answer that will meet their needs. Also heard about we should wait and postpone this because it's part of litigation. Well, that wasn't the thought when we had the retirement that was on, health care that was on, and the cost of living. We went through, we voted up on it, even though I didn't support it, and I didn't support it because it was part of litigation. But that didn't seem to be a problem or issue, and so therefore those are passed and they're gone, and now we to this one. And so I just ask that, you know, my constituents that sit up here on this horseshoe, that can vote on this issue, went through committee. The committee was, people had input on the situation. They had the opportunity to ask all kind of questions. And at the end of the day, we're not going to make everybody happy. Well, however we vote, even when we say take the travel policy away, somebody in Caddo Parish is going to be mad about that. And if you look at what you did for the retirement, what you did for health care, and what you did for COLA, they still complain. Wasn't enough. So what is enough? So I ask you that, you know, you look at what we did, and the last time we postponed it because some of the commissioners hadn't had a chance to look at it. And I've talked to some, and there was this one amendment that will probably be coming up, but I still think that the policy that came out of the committee is the one that we should support, and I ask for your support today on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Epperson, do you want to speak on your second?
Yes. See, first of all, I want to address, I don't know if you call them bloggers or what, but I just call some of the things that's been said relative to travel are just flat out lies. You hear what I'm saying? Flat out lies. I heard at the beginning of the committee that we had back there that said something, a couple of people had spent $30,000 in travel. I asked the finance director, I say, my God, who in the hell spent $30,000 travel? Give me that name. I have yet to see a name of someone spending $30,000 in travel. I have been here going on 21 years collectively. Some dude come down here the other day about the DC Mardi Gras. I guess his name was Harold Sater, Sater, okay. And I don't know if he's the same, what it was, 7700 Jewella?
Yeah.
Was that his business address?
Yes.
Probably. What about a 5705 Lakeshore? Is that the same?
That's his home address.
Okay, and then I see a Harold Sater Jr., but my constituent gave me a pile of liens on this dude. I hope that wasn't him. Blooming hot pile of hypocrisy. He gonna come down here and tell me that he gonna pay for somebody, help me pay for somebody, and hell, he got a bunch of outstanding. If this the right dude, now I don't know. And this is a public records request. Don't I have a right to display public records?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this dude. Okay? How the hell he gonna help me pay for something? He got all these liens and judgments. Now let's get to the other point. This is my 6th 4-year term. 6 4-year term. I only had 2 out of that 6 that I did not have opposition to. Each one, it was opposition. I heard some commissioners say, oh, he going against that old money. He gonna tear him up. I looked at them finance reports, that old money gone down the drain, because I'm still here. And you know what? If my constituents had an issue with me on traveling, they would tell me. Every time I go to church, I go to Super One, I go to County Market, I go to Brookshire's. Commissioner, it's results. What in the hell are they talking about? I say, I don't know. But you know what I tell them? I said, pull those finance records of those newbies that's down here. And you remember I brought out the ad? I wouldn't come nowhere and tote nobody else's water for them. If you man or woman enough to throw a rock and hide your hand, why don't you have enough guts to get in the arena yourself? You got to learn how to be a loser before you can learn how to be a winner. And that's the issue. It's the same handful of liars and hypocrites that comes down here with that same old crap. Same ones. And this is just cyclical. The same junk started in 1992. God rest the dead. Danny Dumas. Vince Marcella. Same old stuff. You're spending, you're going to hell in a handbasket. How are we spending the parish and we got about $62 million that's unencumbered? When I run my campaign, did you notice I didn't put nobody that endorsed me? All I put was the record of the parish in it, and I deliberately did it. No preacher, no big-time businessman, and look at my finance record. Gonna be a bunch of them on there. Miss Rubenstein Carson, 8616 Oklahoma Circle, $10. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. I wouldn't be fool enough to let nobody give me a nickel and have me to carry their water for them because they don't have enough guts to come out and get in this arena themselves. Fools rush in where wise men never go in a haste. When I come down here in 92, I didn't come down here raising no hell. I come down, you know, you got to learn what the hell going on for real. It's a different ball game when you're sitting up here versus sitting outside. A totally different ball game. I have no qualms with the travel policy like it is. If you see my travel spike, you know why it spiked? It spiked because I was caught in D.C. over a number of years and had to stay over because of inclement weather. And anybody that say, because you got a piece of pie up there and you tell me I can eat what I want, that I'm going to eat every damn bit of it. No, that's not me. I eat what I need. Don't lump me in the category with the way that you feel. Or don't stereotype me. That's the problem. Gonna help me pay for something. Hell, you better pay his bills. Anybody come down here and you stand out in that podium and you think you can insult me and I'm not going to retaliate? No, buddy, you got the wrong person. You can criticize me intelligently if you want to, but if you come down wrong, I'm coming back at you. I don't care who it is. Let's be truthful in what we do. Spreading all these innuendos and lies. Nothing to that crap. Let's support that policy the way it is, and let's move on. And let's please sit down a little while and sit here and look and listen and learn. Engage brain before your lips open. That's what it's about. I can pick up the phone and call Baton Rouge or Washington, D.C. I'm not going to get no form letter. I'm not going to get no staffer because I got 21 years of consistency. Brother Bowman, how did I handle that committee the other day? Ms. Watts?
Very fluent.
Always. Professional.
That's what it's about. Sit here and let these folks put you in a bind. You take care of your constituents. That is your direct responsibility. My constituents are just as intelligent or articulate as the constituents of District 8, 7, 6, or any of the others. The constituents in District 12 are just as intelligent and articulate. Hell, they know what they want. They know what they get. When I moved out there, I bumped an incumbent out because my record preceded itself from doing the right thing. And that's what you got to. You take care of your constituents. You don't have to worry about nobody giving you $500 or $2,000. I sent back $2,000 and something dollars when they saw I wasn't going to be commissioner. I'm going to send you. No, you don't want to send me nothing. I don't want to keep your money. I don't need your money. My constituents take care of me because I took care of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkinson. Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to amend Resolution 7. The proposed amendment is linked to your agenda that was distributed out yesterday.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion to amend has been made by Commissioner Atkins, seconded by Commissioner Dominic, and it is attached, and so I guess y'all can read it. If you would please read the amendment, Mr.
I'd be happy to read it. If it's appropriate for the clerk to read it, whatever the protocol dictates. Well, I've got it here.
Go right ahead.
The amendment fits in the second paragraph under authorization. It would fit in at the end of the second paragraph. It reads, if a majority of the commission deems it appropriate, let me repeat that, if a majority of the commission deems it appropriate to send representation to Washington, D.C. for the purpose of lobbying members of the United States Congress, then this delegation will be limited to a maximum of 2 commissioners, with the eligibility limited to the current officers of the commission, parentheses, i.e., president, vice president, or parliamentarian, close parentheses. Commissioners traveling on parish business of the nature outlined in this paragraph will be required to provide a written report to the commission summarizing the outcome of their travels and the potential benefits to the parish within 14 days of their return. That ends the amendment, but I would like to make a couple of statements, if I may.
Oh, you may.
The purpose of this amendment is to help ensure that taxpayers' money is judiciously spent when travel is necessary for conducting commission business. Some will argue that commission travel is not allowed by the Home Rule Charter as it is deemed a perk or a benefit. While I understand and respect this point of view, I believe that some travel is part of the job and is necessary to do the job. And therefore, in my opinion, some reasonable amount of travel is not a perk or a benefit, but part of the job. Therefore, it's not in violation of the homeroom charter as I interpret it. I hope that the commission will consider supporting this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to speak on your second, Commissioner Dominic?
Yes, I would simply say that, first of all, I know the gentleman, Mr. Sater, I have no earthly idea if those judgments or liens are against him, and I just don't see how we need to bring that up. I mean, I think that anybody has a right to come down here and make their public comments. I think his comments were simply that he was a member of the Riddle Association, and
Mr. Dominic, you speaking in reference to my debate instead of the
Okay.
motion. Speak on the motion.
I am speaking on the motion.
No, you're not. You speaking to.
Excuse me,
you
Mr.
don't have
Dominic
to
has the
for him.
floor.
But, you know, you made those comments, and I just wanted to say that. I will say that on the issue that obviously has been brought up, that I think we have a right to go to certain things and do travel, that we do need education. It's going to change up our travel policy a little bit to allow certain events to go to the Louisiana Police Jury Association, which will be in Louisiana. It's not like we're traveling out of state. 2 additional meetings sponsored by the NACO, the Police Jury Day at the Legislature, which is in Baton Rouge. I think I talked to Todd, the maximum amount, I don't know, and LB even alluded to it. I mean, probably the maximum amount, if you went to all that, would be $4,000 or $5,000, maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure. But the thing about it ultimately was, I think the thing that's getting brought up is the issue about the Washington, D.C. travel. I think that it's been brought up legitimately that, and I would simply say, having gone to D.C., that there is a need, or it is important for the leader of the commission to go, that we do go do lobbying efforts. We do meet with, and when we go to Washington, D.C., we meet with our congressional delegations, we meet with our senators. It is a time to sit down and talk and speak about our needs when we're in Washington, D.C. I just don't think that we need to have everybody going, and I think Commissioner Atkins has brought up a relevant amendment that would limit it to, I think, up to 2 commissioners. Is that correct?
Maximum of 2, yeah.
Out of the leadership. I think that that's where it needs to go. I think when you get too many commissioners go, it's giving us a black eye. I think that's probably the major problem of having so many commissioners going to Washington, D.C. Rather than the leadership. And I would support Commissioner Atkins' amendment. I think it puts some thumb and sets forth some procedures on the Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras. So I'll be supporting Commissioner Atkins' amendment at this time. And it doesn't have a limit, but maybe we need to come back and look at that. But at this time, I'm going to go ahead and support your amendment and hope this passes with Commissioner Atkins' amendment.
Commissioner Middleton.
I'm going to withdraw right now.
Commissioner Jackson.
Can you come back to me?
Commissioner Hawthorne.
Okay. I want to make sure that these this amendment gels with what came out of committee originally. So if we add Commissioner Atkins' amendment to Mr. Johnson's recommendation coming out of committee, isn't it we're only putting restrictions on the travel to Washington, D.C.? Because from my understanding, out of his proposed ordinance designates that the ones that you can automatically go to without approval, and then anything else beyond that, you need to come to the body for approval. So by adding Mr. Atkins' amendment, wouldn't it essentially be the same thing?
May I speak to that?
The answer to that?
Hang on a second. You can speak on your amendment, and then you can speak on yours. So Commissioner Atkins, if you wanted to respond.
The way it's intended to be structured, I think it is properly structured, is that you're right. The policy that came out of the committee will hold, except in the case of sending commissioners to Washington DC. In that case, we'll limit it to a maximum of 2.
Okay.
And also with the addition for all travel in that whole paragraph, which includes basically all travel that's not detailed out in those 4 bullet points above.
Right.
Then a written report will be provided within 14 days of return.
Okay, so that's you said that's 2 commissioners and the leadership, you mean?
To a maximum, we're just talking about the commission, we're not talking
Right,
about
2 people from the commission, 2 people from the leadership.
The amendment says 2 people from the commission, and those 2 people can be chosen only from the leadership, the president, the vice president, or the parliamentarian.
Okay, okay. Now, and I don't know if anybody has.
Commissioner Cawthorn, will you allow Commissioner Johnson to explain his aspect of that? Because I think they're very similar, just slightly different.
One is for lobbying.
Under the original amendment, the motion, the part on going to Washington D.C. for Washington Mardi Gras is part of lobbying the U.S. Congress. Okay. Now, in the past, the lobbying has been based on the president, vice president, parliamentarian. Those 3 spots. If one of those didn't go, then it opened it up for any other commissioner to then go. What he does now is limited to only 2 or 3 of the officers, either the president, vice president, parliamentarian. Now, if any of those 3 don't decide to go, then there is nobody from the commission that will go.
Can you include your amendment to say designee? For an example, if Matthew didn't want to go, and he wanted to appoint Chavez to go, then that would be his designee.
That's
out of
already
leadership.
there. That's under the original motion.
But that's not what's being said.
Yeah, I'm assuming that out of the three members of the leadership, we'll be able to get at least 1 representative, probably 2, but at least 1. And I think, I think that would be sufficient to represent the commission.
But 2, that's fine. No, I'm just saying, let's say for this year, let's say that Doug didn't want to go, Matthew didn't want to go, Jackson didn't want to go.
Then none of us can go.
Then nobody would go?
Nobody can go.
We'd have staffers up there.
Staff will be there.
But I think the odds of all 3 leaders, all 3 of the leadership spots not wanting to go, the event is scheduled months ahead of time. So I doubt that there's going to be a situation. Well, I shouldn't say that.
But this past year, you only had one.
It may happen. It may happen, but it's not going to happen very often.
This year, you only had 1 officer that win.
And last year we didn't have anyone.
Excuse me, Commissioner Cawthorn, you have the floor.
I'm finished.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson. Okay. Commissioner Chavez.
I'm going to go with Mr. Johnson. We took this to committee. We sat around a table. We welcomed the citizens, and I applaud the ones that did show up. And we hashed this out in a committee. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to do. So when we take this and we work for the public, and the public shows up and they work with us, and we come to something in agreement, and we put it on there, and then all of a sudden these other people, they're reactive. They're not proactive. Where are the guys that have the problems with this? Why didn't they show up for the committee meeting? They were welcome to come too. Are we going to make this new amendment and all of a sudden somebody else is going to be reactive to that? Are we going to every single other week come back again and again and again because somebody doesn't like the next sentence? Why didn't they show up for the committee? We're wasting taxpayer dollars sitting around wasting money here talking about this over and over and over again, as opposed to getting us back to where Caddo Parish citizens are happy with the commission, and then we can move on and start working for Caddo Parish. I'm just tired of working on the same thing over and over again. I'm ready to get to work. So we had a committee. We pushed it there. We all came in agreement. I get that some people don't like that the term is Mardi Gras. I've gone down to New Orleans. I had to go for tax conferences down there. I was in a hotel next to Mardi Gras. I didn't go down to Bourbon Street. I didn't go down there drinking. I was there working. And I came back and I never saw a single bead. So I know that the Louisiana thought process is these guys are going up to Mardi Gras and it's a big drinking fest and they're having a party. I've never been there, so I can't speak to say that they have or they haven't, but I have seen them come back. I have seen production come back from Washington. I am a businessman. I know that sometimes you have to have a sit down over a good meal and discuss things and say face to face, this is what needs to happen. Sometimes a simple telephone call just isn't as personal to get things accomplished. So But the guys that aren't scared to travel, that are willing to go work, because a lot of people think it's a benefit. Ask a man that's away from his family 300 days out of the year, living out of a suitcase in a hotel, if that's a benefit. Nobody wants to live like that. Nobody wants to live in a hotel when all their best clothes and their best food is sitting at the refrigerator in their house back home. So it's not really a benefit. I see that a lot of people that maybe they have an 8-to-5 job and they think that, hey, going to Washington would be a benefit or a small vacation, but it's not. It's not when your loved ones are sitting back at the house. You don't get to see them for 3 days because you're living out of a hotel. So
It's stuck in the snow.
And stuck in the snow, and then you don't get to go home even longer. So I'm standing behind Commissioner Johnson and the what came out of the committee with what everybody agreed on. With what I wish these guys that are so upset with would have showed up to help us come up with a solution, because that's what we're sitting around the table trying to do. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you.
Jesus at the
Commissioner
fire.
Chavez touched on many of the things that I wanted to say, just to be reminded that, you know, when we start talking about wasting things, I think we always waste a lot of time on things that really don't matter. Here it is, we done made it through January and February, and we should be marching our way on into victory by now. But however, we're still sitting around arguing about policy when it's already been ironed out in the proper committee. You know, you touched on some things that really hit home for me, because every time I travel, I have small kids that I leave behind. The last time that we went to Washington, I left a sick baby. But I felt that it was needed for my voice to be there. And guess what I got? Results. I got to sit down and lobby with the senators. That would not have happened if I would have stayed behind in Caddo Parish. So it is more than just going out of town to do nothing. It is a job, a continuous job. And if you want to get things done for your parish, you got to leave this place. I think that Commissioner Johnson always says Caddo moving forward is his motto. I believe in the people. The people want to see change here. So whatever heights that we have to go to see those changes, let's do it. But let's stop arguing about things that don't matter. You know, just like you said, one word, one sentence is not going to be, we're not going to satisfy everyone with everything. I refuse to be communist led. No one is going to tell or choose which trip that I go to, because it says these are available for you. You have a spending cap. It's not to be greedy, but I am not going to carry anyone else's water, and I don't want anyone else to carry mine. I think that I can use my own voice to its own advantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jackson.
Appreciate it. I think for me, and what I would like to do is bring the conversation back to where it started out. And when I introduced the two ordinances in one resolution, I think I prefaced that by saying everybody's not going to be happy, and some folks are going to be mad. And this was a compromise when I put these out there, and we sent them to committee. And there is a population of folks who are convinced that it just has to be one way or the other, all or none. And that's not what government is about. That's not what policy is about. And you know, sometimes you have to be willing to have the mirror cast in your face and get into this. I compromised and said, let's hold this off. Let's put it off. I hadn't been in a rush, but now I'm kind of getting tired of talking about this. We have discussed this thing to death to me, and I understand the perception of Washington Mardi Gras, but I've been there. There is some business that takes place there. But I'm not willing to single it out. That's my issue, is if we start singling out this trip, then they come back and say, well, you know, we really got it, because somebody sent me an email yesterday saying, I don't think all the commissioners should go to this NACO conference, you know, your National Association of Counties conference. So do we come back next year? And the convention? Yeah, that's in an email, and I promise you. I promise you. No, NACO, not the police jury. NACO. I promise you, I'll show you the email. They said, I don't think the commissioners should go to that. And so do we come back next year and strip that out? The other issue I have is it seems like we're only limiting the commission. I've looked in our budget and I see where departments travel, staff travel, and we're not restricting theirs. And as I told that person, I'm either for reining it all in or none of it. I mean, we just can't pick and choose what we want to rein in. And so, again, this is what I feel is. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. This is what I feel is a compromise. It's not going to satisfy everybody. There are some folks who say leave the travel policy as it is in 2015. There are some folks who say do that. But to me, the compromise is to find some even ground, some middle ground. And so there, like I say, the folks who just say, I got to have it my way, you know, you got to be open to compromise. This is not a, I heard somebody say communist society or socialist society. It just is not, this is not how it works down here. And I think we listen to the public. There's a sentiment. The original sentiment that I got from some folks is we didn't want a single change to the travel policy. Now we got folks up here who's at least willing to put restrictions on where we go. And if you ask me, this is more restrictive than what I had proposed. Wow. Because you've limited where you go. And so if it only costs $4,000 to go to these 4 trips, we've accomplished what you've asked us to do. And so I think what you have to do is we've got 3 more years up here, 4 more years up here. I think this public needs to trust us in what we're doing. And if we violate that trust, send us home after this is over with. But I think what we have is good policy that came out of the committee. And I just, you know, I've had to sleep on this one, but I just cannot single out a particular trip. Because if I scratch through, what if I go lobby my congressional delegation in Virginia? I mean, it's just over the Potomac. I mean, have I violated the spirit of this resolution? And so I know folks want to be for transparency, and I'm for transparency, good government, and controlling our spending. But I do want to emphasize that this does not give commissioners an unlimited spending spree. I asked that question specifically in committee, Commissioner Johnson. I asked him that question. And this, to me, is more restrictive than what I put out. And so I think folks will be happy with what we have once they see what we put together. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Johnson.
Recommendation out of committee.
Yes.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Johnson to call for the question, second by Commissioner Epson. It's
call for the question.
Call for the question.
So we vote on the substitute.
We're voting for calling for the question on the substitute.
Right, on the substitute.
In debate.
Everything. At the end of debate on
everything. Everything on this subject.
Oh, whether to vote or not, whether they go to vote or not?
Whether to vote. Call for the question, then do vote on the substitute motion first.
Gotcha.
Mr. Bowman.
Okay, that passes. Now we're going to be voting on the substitute motion that was made by Commissioner Atkins, second by Commissioner Dominic. That does not pass, and so now we will vote on the original motion made by Commissioner Johnson, second by Commissioner Epperson. And that passes. Next item, please.
Have no old business, we move to new business. Executive session to discuss demand letter and prospective litigation by Louisiana Cleaning Systems Incorporated.
Motion made by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Commissioner Epperson to go in.
Question?
Oh, you have a question on this?
Well, I just want to
I'll
remove all communications,
Electronic devices.
electronic
Oh.
devices.
Yeah.
We're going to need executive session.
Okay.
Let's get back to
You have to
Make the
say-
motion.
And
I'll make the motion.
second.
Okay.
But you also have to say who stays.
Okay. This executive session was called by Attorney Frazier and Administrator Wilson, and so you know who better needs to stay in here and who needs to go. So if you would please.
Eric needs to stay.
No, she doesn't. Just Mary.
Just the legal staff and myself.
Okay. Everybody else would please leave.
Have we voted to go
We
into
haven't voted.
executive?
Okay. Everybody please vote to go into executive session. Vote yes. And
Yeah, okay.
Okay, really.
Mr. Jefferson's
so we're
yes.
in executive session.
10-2.
Militant. Militant.
Black transparent.
I'm a new Republican. I'm a new Republican now, I'm telling you. I'm agreeing with what
How
they
long will
said.
this meeting, do we need to take a 5-minute break?
Now, let's get this started. I got
I don't
places to
think
go.
so.
Okay, I didn't know if they
Wait a
were
minute, I
gonna...
said the municipal auditorium.
Saying 5 minutes break?
That's tomorrow night?
No. Well, she said it was, we were gonna need a 5-minute break. She said
It's
she
not
was
gonna be
gonna
long.
run through it.
Hey, LBJ. Good job.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, that's with AT&T.
I don't want to give up my phone.
I didn't ask that we do that.
I was like, who's there behind me?
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
I'm not giving mine up. I'm
Thank you,
sorry. Not this time. I did that last time.
Run a tape.
We-
You gotta trust me.